Welcome, everyone. I'm delighted that you are joining us for today's webinar. My name is Natalia Kucirkova, and I work as Professor of Early Childhood Development and also as Director of the International Center for EdTech Impact. Delighted that so many of you are joining us today. At the center, we work with a number of EdTech organizations from the startup stage all the way to mature companies, unicorns even. And we support these companies with their evidence of impact. We also evaluate the impact they have in different contexts, and we validate the impact for different procurement teams, investors, funders. And all this work is done in partnerships. And one of our key partners is UNICEF. So I'm delighted that they are the host for our session today. And they'll be sharing with us the work behind the Learning Cabinet and their way of approaching evidence and evaluation of EdTech. So without further ado, I'll pass on to Juliette Norrmén-Smith, who will kick us off for this webinar. Juliette, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Natalia. Nice to be here. Greetings to everyone. My name is Juliette Norrmén-Smith. I'm an innovation specialist with UNICEF's Global Learning Innovation Hub, and it's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues who I'll introduce soon, and just want to start by thanking ICEI and thanking Wicket for giving us the space to host and to share some exciting work that we're doing around EdTech innovation, evaluation, impact, as Natalia shared. And we only have an hour together today, so without further ado, let's jump into the agenda. So if we could go to the next slide. We'll start with a brief framing to give you some background on the UNICEF Learning Innovation Hub and really the central role that the hub plays in UNICEF's overarching global digital education portfolio. And we'll also zoom into the EdTech for Good initiative and the Learning Cabinet, which we steer alongside our partners. And then we're going to tell you how we work with EdTech providers and countries. So deep diving into the Learning Cabinet and the blue unicorns, the evaluation and application process. We have one of our blue unicorns here, Cantoo, actually. So we'll have a bit of a discussion and then go into a Q&A and a closing. So I'm here with my colleagues, Milja, Laakso, and Olli, so we're delighted to answer any questions that you have. Please note them down in the chat, and I'll come back in at the end of the session to guide our Q&A. So if we go to the next slide, I just want to start us because really any conversation about technology and education has to start with the why. And at UNICEF, we believe that this why is really about the global learning crisis and improving equity and quality in education for all children around the world is what drives us every day. And there's really no denying that we need innovation to help us solve this crisis. As you see on the screen, some quite staggering statistics, which maybe are familiar to you, but if not, we're dealing with 272 million children who are out of school, a number actually which has grown recently rather than declined. Many who are in school are actually not meeting basic learning targets. So we have around 600 million children not reaching basic proficiency levels. And then, of course, a hugely important factor here is that we have 44 million teachers that would need to be hired to fill the gaps that are required to meet SDG 4, so our quality education target as a global community. And for many of these children, the challenges are actually compounded by a lot of other issues such as conflict, climate change, displacement, and so on. So the question really is, has EdTech helped us address these challenges? So if we go to the next slide, we've had decades of EdTech and billions of dollars of investments, hundreds of thousands of solutions, and over 20 years really of EdTech at scale, and yet learning outcomes have not moved in the way in which we were promised, in a sense. So again, at that global scale, we're seeing digital technology not supporting greater equity and inclusion in education in the way that we want it to. And so this is really where UNICEF's work comes in. So on the next slide, where we sit is at this intersection of the global learning crisis and learning innovation, because we really believe in the potential of digital technology to broaden access to education, to enhance teaching and learning opportunities, and really to combat those persistent inequalities that I was mentioning. So on the next slide, to guide our work in this space, we've actually just last week released our digital education strategy, which is called Beyond Digital as Usual, which is really important. And this is because we're really wanting to push as UNICEF with our partners around the world some key shifts. So moving sort of from tech-first approaches that overlook teachers and learner needs towards more human-centered, child-centered approaches, moving more from that hammers looking for nails approach to solutions towards tackling core education system issues and bottlenecks to strengthen the system. And then also moving beyond sort of basic digitalization towards leveraging the unique potential of tech. So we're seeing really amazing things happening around adaptive, personalized learning, inclusion, and assistive technology, which we can talk more about as well. And finally, I'll end the framing with the last slide, which is looking at the 5 core areas of our digital education strategy, which you'll see here. And I think what I want to pinpoint on this is that we're really looking at impact. So not just those sort of inputs and reach indicators, but looking at outcomes. How is EdTech actually supporting not only learning outcomes, but education outcomes and those system outcomes more broadly? And so research is really important to this. As you'll see, evidence generation is sort of a core theme throughout all of our work. It's actually how we work with the International Center of EdTech Impact as well to generate evidence with the countries that we're working with to understand what works for whom under what conditions when it comes to technology and education. At the center, we have EdTech for Good. Evidence, impact, and many other things are core elements of this. So without further ado, I'll pass to my colleague Milja to walk us through EdTech for Good.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Juliette. And I'm really pleased to be here having this conversation with all of you. My name is Milja Laakso. I'm innovation specialist with the Global Learning Innovation Hub within the EdTech for Good team. And if we move forward, So Juliette was talking about, the need to really bridge the gap between the learning needs in the countries and the promise of EdTech. And so when we work with our partner governments and the education decision makers in those contexts where UNICEF works, when our partners contact us, these are the contexts where they typically work. Their work, and they're trying to introduce these EdTech tools to address the learning crisis. So this is a second grade classroom in GS Murama in Rwanda, where we've recently been working on introducing a solution. And so what's typical in this context is that you see large class sizes, easily 60 to 80 learners per one teacher. Next one, please. These are typically contexts where you have either low connectivity or no connectivity at all. Next one, please. And typically it's not a classroom where you would have, one device per each child, but children are really sharing devices in these classrooms. Next one. And also the teachers that are kind of handling this classroom, Juliette talked about that as well, have limited capacity both in the pedagogical approaches, but also and definitely in kind of their digital skills. And these are really the contexts where we're trying to introduce solutions. Next slide. So to support this, what we've developed is a pathway called EdTech for Good. And this initiative or this pathway really has 3 main steps. So we first evaluate what are those kind of guiding principles, what are those guiding questions that we must ask the EdTech providers to understand which are the tools that can be really scalable in those contexts that we've just seen, that have that evidence of actually delivering learning outcomes at scale, and that are, of course, safe and impactful overall. We evaluate solutions based on the EdTech for Good framework, and then those solutions that kind of pass the screening are placed on the Learning Cabinet, which is an online platform for education decision makers to discover those impactful, scalable, and adaptable EdTech tools. And the third step of this journey is the Blue Unicorn portfolio, which is UNICEF's own acceleration portfolio of high potential solutions that we then provide specific bespoke support to really accelerate and scale through our programs, and we in partnership with our partner governments. Next slide, please. And so I talked about the EdTech for Good framework. I wanted to give you a quick glimpse of what it is and what are kind of the elements that we and our key partners, including Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland, ARM, ADB, World Bank, and others who came together to develop this framework, thought were the kind of key elements to assess EdTech, particularly for this kind of context that I was referring to. And so what we think and what the framework really includes are elements in the safety of these solutions. It really looks at, is this solution actually delivering impact on learning? Is it designed for children and also for teachers or for those users who are actually using the solution? And does it follow the kind of best pedagogical design approaches? And then really importantly, is it ready to reach also? Is it actually, does it function in these kind of contexts where you might not have connectivity? Can it be, used over shared devices and so forth? And does it really, build within the design equity considerations for users with different kind of needs? Next slide, please. And so what we wanted to do today is really dive a little bit deeper into the Blue Unicorn portfolio and how we then actually work with the EdTech solutions that do pass this evaluation. And so the Blue Unicorn portfolio is really built on this moonshot of challenging the search for this kind of traditional definition of what unicorns are in terms of $1 billion ventures, and seeking to build a portfolio of EdTech tools that can really impact 100 million children or more with quality learning. Next slide, please. And we do this through a acceleration journey. I know there's a lot on the slide, but I'll try to unpack it. So basically, what we do is we work hand in hand with countries. So there's kind of two tracks where we work. On the one hand, we work with countries through UNICEF's country offices. So UNICEF has presence in 190 countries over the world, and we work with country programs in over 135 countries globally. And from that, we have then selected a pool of UNICEF's country offices and partner governments with whom we embark this journey of really testing and accelerating solutions that have large impact. On the other hand, we work with EdTech innovators, the supply side, through this journey that I just mentioned. And we go through a journey that starts with smaller scale, kind of model for scale phase. We very intentionally don't call these pilots because there's a lot of piloting fatigue, and sometimes pilots are just, done for the sake of piloting. But we're really kind of like from the get-go have our eyes on the kind of scale-up journey. For those solutions that really demonstrate to have big potential, we then accelerate them in one or two countries, and then start building scalable models of what works, documenting what are the kind of business models and deployment models that can really drive scale on the long term and sustainably. And to guide us through this, we use the 5D evaluation framework, which is UNICEF's way of kind of managing the innovation journey. So we look at these different aspects of innovation and then identify areas of support and growth with the EdTech providers and provide EdTech providers with mentorship, with coaching, and so forth. And as Juliette mentioned, the evidence generation really runs through this whole journey. And so we partner with organizations such as ICEI to build rigorous evidence in each of these stages. And of course, the kind of level of rigorousness grows as we go into a longer term and larger implementations. Next slide, please. And so this is where we wanted to kind of now go in from the theory to practice. And I would invite here Fanny Pigneres, who is Projects and Partnerships Director with Cantoo. Cantoo is one of our portfolio companies from our first cohort, and she's here to kind of share firsthand of the journey that Cantoo has had throughout this program. So you're very warmly welcome, Fanny, and maybe before we go into, please, if you want to kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll go into the questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Milja, and it's a very good pleasure to be here with you today to share our experience as a Blue Unicorn at Cantoo. So I'm Fanny, Projects and Partnerships Director at Cantoo, and happy to answer your questions and just to talk about what we are doing in Ghana and Zimbabwe with UNICEF.
Great. So Fanny, could you first briefly describe Cantoo product, what does it do, and also what have you done so far as part of the Blue Unicorn portfolio?
Yes, of course. So Cantoo, we are a social enterprise based in France, and we are developing digital tools based on AI to answer special educational needs. So concretely, we have developed a digital notebook that gathers all assistive technologies in only one platform to help students with disability or more globally special educational needs succeed at school. So it can help students with dyslexia, visual impairment, autism with tools like text-to-speech, speech-to-text, spell checker, text adaptation, translator, and every tool that can help answer individual needs to remove barriers to learning and help every child have access finally to learning. So it works like glasses. Our tool adapts to each student, supporting reading, comprehension, and like fundamental learnings. And so we are grateful that we have joined the Blue Unicorn portfolio in 2025. So in this context, we've got the chance to pilot our solution, so Cantoo Scribe, in 2 countries, so Ghana and Zimbabwe. So we've been there last September to train teachers, and we also have supported them along 12 weeks to help them use the tool. So like in total, there are around 15 schools in both countries who are trying our solutions and make us improve to adapt their context and like strengthen inclusion in these countries.
Great. And so from those lessons or those experiences, what are some of the results and learnings or benefits, if you will, that you've gained from working with UNICEF and our partner governments through this journey? And also, if you can talk to, has this journey impacted your product roadmap or business model in any way?
Yeah, yes, working with UNICEF, like it's an exciting and demanding experience. And even if it's not over yet, we have already been learning a lot from this experience in both countries. We've learned a lot. Working with UNICEF teams, the Learning Innovation Hub, but also with local teams in both countries, and from working also with government and with research. Both government and research are also really involved in the projects, and it has already challenged a lot our product but also our business model. For instance, for our product, as Milja mentioned just before, there are some challenges about connectivity and also about large classes. So we have already had to create new feature or to adapt the way we support teachers to give them some tips about how to use our solution in this kind of context. It has also challenged our model because we had to adapt our support by combining in-person and remote sessions with the hybrid formats. And it also challenges our business model because UNICEF teams make us work about the next steps. It's a pilot, but it's also the first step of a new model. So there is also a support from the UNICEF team to help us accelerate on our implementation in these countries. So yes, we learned a lot, and this experimentation is context where we can learn and try and adapt with teachers who really are part of a community and make us a lot of feedbacks. We have implemented some like WhatsApp community, so we are exchanging a lot with them, and we are adapting like in live, in real context, to make the product really fit the needs on the ground.
So, Fanny, you already talked about some of the ways in which this engagement has kind of challenged your product, your business model. But in terms of, if we kind of dig in a little bit deeper into challenges, what are maybe some of the biggest challenges that you have faced as part of this journey?
Yes, for the challenges, I think the biggest challenge we faced was connectivity. We at Cantoo have developed a product that works offline. We are a lot of like the major part of our tools is offline. We offer like yes, the software works offline, but even for the first connection or for instance updates when we improve our product, we finally need a bit of connectivity. So that was a big challenge for us in this experimentation. We didn't so much anticipate as we offer an offline product, but that's also a very good opportunity for us because we are now working on a new version of the product that can work really as a 100% offline. So it's a big challenge, but for us it brings a lot of benefits because for UNICEF, of course, it will be a key changer, but it will also benefit for all our partners because connectivity is an issue in a lot of contexts. And overall, it also helped to create a product which is also more sustainable, consuming less data, etc. So like it's a big challenge, but that turns into also a good opportunity for us to improve. But one of the challenges is to like adapt in a quite short period to be able to also test it with the teachers. And I think maybe another challenge we met, it's also about the remote support. And like we realized at the beginning of the project that going into schools, it was key to understand and to support and to be sure that the experiment is a success and we don't miss anything about the experience of the teachers. So we've decided when we went into the countries for the training to work with consultants on site who could go into schools. So local UNICEF teams made us introduction so we could meet people when we went there. And now it really really, really helpful to have them on site, and we have trained them before so they can support teachers with our solution. And we have created like some reporting tools to help them make us feedbacks from what happens in the ground. So I think, yes, it's the main two challenges we faced and we tried to address during the experimentations.
Thanks so much, Fanny. And I think that talks to, the ability of Cantoo to also really iterate based on the learnings very, very quickly. My final question is, we have other EdTech companies and providers on this call. If there are other companies here on this call who are considering kind of embarking this journey, what are some of the key learnings or tips that you could share with other companies that are considering joining kind of our work?
If there are other edtechs who are considering applicate, just my advice is don't hesitate to applicate. For us, it's a very structuring project that really help shape the future of our product, but also of our project. It's like very high quality project with a lot of mobilization from the team, from also the governments. So it's really, really interesting for us to work on this project and for Cantoo like globally. So working directly with ministries and research team, it's a major asset. So yes, just don't hesitate. And also local teams, they bring valuable field insights and like consistently challenge us to ensure that our application is like used effectively on the ground. So they also are like proposing solutions to improve it. So it's really a teamwork to make it real and to make it a success. And it addresses like all the parts of our project, the product, but also the impact we can have working with UNICEF, like the support we have to bring to teachers like all over the world, and also the business model for the next steps. So it's really a key opportunity to make our impact increase. So yes, let's go for application.
Thanks so much, Fanny, and that's a great segue actually for our next session. So hopefully, Fanny, you can stay on for the Q&A session as well if there's any questions on Cantoo or on your journey. But now we'll move on, and Olli will kind of talk us through now. Okay, if you're actually interested in embarking this journey, what does that look like? How do you actually apply to the learning cabinet and how you should prepare? So over to you, Olli.
Yes, thank you, Milja, and thank you, Fanny, and thank you, Juliette. Special thanks to Fanny sharing so openly and honestly about your journey and the learnings. So, like Milja mentioned, the first step to potentially start collaborating with UNICEF is by having your EdTech solution evaluated and doing that through the EdTech for Good framework, and then eventually be listed in the learning cabinet. So now let's dive deeper into how do we actually evaluate EdTech solutions, how you can apply to the learning cabinet, who can apply, and when is good time to apply. I've been working in the EdTech for Good team since June, and I work with the Learning Cabinet team as a EdTech strategist. So really working together with the EdTech providers and the evaluators to assess the solutions. Let's start from the process of applying to the Learning Cabinet. What does that mean to have your solution or have a solution evaluated via EdTech for Good framework? So in the high level, we have these 3 steps when we evaluate an EdTech solution. We start with quick assessment and move all the way to final decision. And as you can see, if you will be listed and you will get to the final decision stage, it will take from 2 to 3 months usually. Just to show you the scale, how many and the volume, how many applications we are dealing with. By far, during a bit over a year, we have received over 900 applications from EdTech tool providers. And so far we have listed 48 tools in the Learning Cabinet. But now let's take a look what each of these 3 steps include, and start from the quick assessment stage. How much time is needed from an EdTech provider if you apply or submit the quick assessment? Basically, you do it by going to learningcabinet.org, and it's a web form that you submit to us. It takes usually from 10 to 30 minutes to fill out the form and submit. After that has been done, the first step we take is an automatic eligibility check. So based on what the EdTech provider has replied in the quick assessment form, we automatically verify if the applicant is legally incorporated entity, if they have publicly available privacy policy, that's one eligibility criteria for us, and if the solution is already in active use, meaning that we don't pass a prototype stage or concept stage solutions to the full assessment or further from the automatic eligibility check. If the solution passes the automatic eligibility check, they move on to human pre-screening, meaning that our team will take a look at the documentation, take a look at the answers that the solution provider has submitted through a quick assessment. And first we check if the tool addresses teaching and learning. So at the moment, we focus only on those tools and, for example, not on pure admin tools. Those we don't assess yet. Then next thing we do is we check what kind of evidence the provider has shared with us through the quick assessment. Does it meet the minimum level of evidence that is required in order for us to be able to list the solution in the Learning Cabinet? And then lastly, we also check the scalability potential, especially in the Global South context. But basically, we are checking, does the solution demonstrate readiness for system-level implementation when it comes to the maturity of the solution, maybe the team size, team capabilities, financial stability, and things like that. If the solution passes from quick assessment to full assessment, then it means that the provider receives an email saying that welcome to fill out the full assessment web application. And at this stage, we ask many more questions and require the provider to submit us more documentation related to the safety and data privacy and evidence and technical specifications and so on. Basically, you as a provider, you'd need to submit and answer questions related to each of those 5 pillars: safety, impact, design for children, ready to scale, and accessible for all. And that's the kind of submission process that the provider goes through. The provider don't only submit documents and answer questions, but they also provide us access to the actual solution that they're applying with. And they need to provide credentials for our evaluators to access the solution, to be able to use it and test it and audit it. But we also ask the provider to give us about a 1-hour demo session where they get to explain what's the background of the solution, what's the context for the use cases, how it is supposed to be used, and so that us and our evaluators understand fully that what is the right way of using this. Already during this session, we might ask, how do you train your users, and ask clarifying questions related to the use cases at this stage. Once we have the documentation and all the replies in the full assessment form, and we have access to the solution, then we assign always minimum of 2 expert EdTech evaluators to audit the content, audit the solution, and conduct a review against EdTech for Good criteria. And sometimes we use more people. Sometimes it's okay to use the 2 evaluators. There have been cases where we have needed some engage with special experts when it comes to, for example, safety or data privacy or special education or subject matter experts we might sometimes use as part of the evaluators group when we conduct the assessment of the tool. If the solution passes the threshold score to be listed in the Learning Cabinet, then the final stage is that our evaluation team will present the findings to our Learning Cabinet committee, and then the final decision whether the solution will be listed or not will be made by the committee. And sometimes it happens that at this stage there might be further clarification needed, and we will go back to the provider asking a few additional questions and clarifying those before the solution can be listed. If the solution is listed, we will provide different assets for the solution provider so that they can communicate that they have been listed in the Learning Cabinet. What does it mean, and so on. We also usually have about half an hour onboarding call at this stage with the EdTech provider, just to ensure that they understand what does the listing mean and how they can benefit from it the most. But yeah, then just to elaborate more on what are the potential benefits of having a solution evaluated through EdTech for Good framework. This is quite consistent feedback that we get from the EdTech providers, even from those who didn't get their solution listed in the Learning Cabinet at the first round of the evaluation. Pretty much all of them say that nevertheless the process was useful for them, because when they submitted the full assessment form, and even during the quick assessment stage, they already started to familiarize themselves. What is the criteria, the kind of questions that a government might ask, or any partner who is potentially considering their solution to be included in a system level deployment of an EdTech solution. What are the questions that they will need to have answers to? And I think that already is quite useful for any EdTech provider looking to, like, especially governmental level collaborations. Then of course, if you do get listed or if you don't get listed, every provider will gain feedback. What are the strengths and what are some of the development areas that we expect to be fixed before the solution applies again. This is a costs free, so the solution provider can fix the solution, then apply again and potentially be listed on the next time. If the solution does get listed, here are some of the assets that we provide. So all the listed providers have this official badge that they can use for marketing purposes. Of course, we are now getting nicely growing traffic to the Learning Cabinet repository site where all of these solutions are presented. It's mainly educational EdTech experts, educational specialists, EdTech sector decision makers who come to search for validated EdTech tools for a variety of different types of EdTech projects. We offer a guest blocking opportunity for all of these listed EdTech providers. And here's one example from Booker class, how you can use the badge and the listing and communicate that to your audiences. And then lastly, I just wanted to point out that with each of these solutions that we have listed in the Learning Cabinet, there's plenty of information about the solution. And what we have seen in some cases is that the Learning Cabinet has started to evolve to be almost like an evidence portfolio to some of these listed EdTech solution providers, so that some providers, they don't necessarily want to share all of the impact research that has been done about their solution on their own website. But it is really useful to still describe that even in detail, all of that research and case studies and so on inside Learning Cabinet. Also, when it comes to technical specifications, it is really useful to use Learning Cabinet as a place where you can give the most rigorous explanation on the product itself, and that way gain more visibility and potentially find new users for the solution. But this is the process, and these are really the outcomes through the assessment. And yeah, then lastly, who can apply? Like I mentioned, those digital tools and services that support teaching and learning. So at the moment, we don't evaluate pure admin tools. We do expect all the providers that are listed in the Learning Cabinet to show evidence of their solutions impact. We don't have any standards in a way that this is everybody needs to have empirical academic research done or something like this, because it always depends a little bit case by case what type of solution we are assessing. So what kind of evidence we do expect to see. And then also we need to be sure that the provider is ready for system level deployment. So the organization needs to be mature, and the product needs to be mature and have a lot of traction and so on. When to apply? You can, if you want to act fast, it's possible to already apply at learningcabinet.org. But we do have this priority application call starting in mid-February. So if you want to receive news and stay up to date, when do we open the dedicated application call, you can join our newsletter or follow us on LinkedIn or other channels, and you will see when the application call starts. It will last about 1 month, so you will have time to submit during that. But yeah, this is all from my side, and maybe now it's good to dedicate the last about 15-20 minutes to questions and answers. And Juliette, I welcome you to take care of this Q&A part.
Thanks so much, Olli. And yes, we already have a few questions in the chat. Please do keep them coming. But we are in meeting mode, which is great. So also, if you have questions that you'd like to share orally, please raise your hand and I'll make sure to call on you. I want to start just because I think this is a really excellent question. So thanks to John Kapp from Community Systems Foundation, who's asking how UNICEF is also building institutional capacity with our government counterparts to ensure that this entire process of modeling for scale, the blue unicorns and solutions in the Learning Cabinet really takes hold and has sustainable impact. It's a really great question, and I'll start by answering at the macro scale and then zoom into the examples that we've discussed today. So at the macro scale, I mean, what makes UNICEF really unique is our incredibly strong relationship with governments, and in this case, ministries of education around the world. We're active in over 190 countries, and actually most of our staff is in the field. So we represent a global team, but we have really incredible counterparts at the country office level. Fanny alluded to this in her experience with Cantoo, who are supporting governments throughout all of these processes. And this is especially true in some of the most challenging contexts where UNICEF is really leaned upon to provide technical assistance and a variety of kinds of support to education systems. So this is definitely true as well for our work on digital education. We know that pilots are not going to reach scale unless they're well integrated into national digital education strategies and action plans. So we, as UNICEF, support the education sector plan development, for example, in the countries that we work with. And so again, that piece of the local contextualization is really key. So if we zoom in to the blue unicorns, as Milja mentioned, the blue unicorns really represent, let's say, the supply side of a two-sided coin, where the demand side is the other. And that's where we go through these matching exercises where we are working with what we call a cohort of learning pioneers countries who we're working with on a number of things. But one of those is a matching exercise to see those education system challenges and what tools are available in the Learning Cabinet that can help move the needle to address those challenges. That is one part of a larger Learning Pioneers program that we didn't talk much about in this call, but it includes things like a week-long visit to the Helsinki Learning Innovation Hub. So we actually hosted a group of 6 countries this past October, and then also a digital education leadership program that we're that we're giving to country officers as well as our UNICEF colleagues and government counterparts in a longer term program with the University of Cambridge and with our partners at GPE. So there's various bits and pieces that we that are sort of instantiated in our broader support to build and support countries' institutional capacity to ensure that tech is not just a sort of plug-in. So if I take us now back to the questions that are more sort of specific to the Learning Cabinet process, I've seen quite a few come in. I think there's one really, Olli, Milja, I'll pass to both of you on the scope. So there was someone asking about the applicability of higher education tools to the process of application to the Learning Cabinet. So can I pass to you guys to take that one?
Yeah, sure. It is possible for higher education tools to apply as well. We have tertiary education as one of the categories. However, of course, UNICEF's mandate is to support children and youth. But still, yes, you can apply with higher education tools as well.
Yeah, and we do have a significant portion of work that's, and as Olli mentioned, youth, that's on sort of skills and competency development as well. So that's probably the area where some of those higher education tools may be particularly pertinent. There are a couple questions around cost. Does it cost anything to apply?
No, free of charge. Yeah.
Free of charge, except time. Maybe you can give an estimate, Olli, about how long does the application process take? And from your experience working and supporting some of the EdTech solution providers through this process, how much time would you put aside for the application?
Yeah, well, the quick assessment stage is really quick. It takes from anything from 10 to 30 minutes. So we ask the very basic questions about your organization. Of course, you do need to share the privacy policy at this stage. Some providers go and start checking if the privacy policy is up to date. And of course, if you need to refine something, then it takes more time. But I think it's time well spent at that stage. If you pass from quick assessment to full assessment, I would estimate from 2 to 3 hours to fill out the whole form. Sometimes, especially bigger organizations, what they do is they download the whole framework as an Excel spreadsheet, and then they pass it around in the organization, depending on if it's somebody who knows more about the data privacy, they can answer to those questions, and then somebody who can explain better the pedagogical design of the solution, they can answer to those questions. And then there's one person who then logs into Learning Cabinet and copy pastes all the answers from the Excel in the web form. But yeah, a few hours, I would say.
Great. But yes, the quick assessment is probably the best entry point. Takes 10 minutes to figure out if you are applicable to do the longer one. Just a quick, I'm just going to reiterate this verbally. It's been answered in the chat, but a question around the geographic representation. We had two questions on that, actually. The first being, is the application call open to Latin America? The answer is a resounding yes, it's open globally. We would love as much geographic representation from around the world as possible. And that gets to the second point, which is there was a question around the representation of locally developed EdTech tools that are matched with contexts that they were developed in with the Blue Unicorn portfolio. And I think the answer to that was 2. So 2 of the 6 were sort of developed where they're being implemented, if I'm correct on that. But please, Milja and Olli, come in if that's not the case.
Yeah, maybe I can just briefly, sorry,
yeah,
Juliette. Yeah. So from the initial portfolio, yes, that's the number. But then, of course, a lot of these solutions already have presence in a lot of countries, so they already have kind of some of those lessons learned and those contextual considerations built in their solutions when they come into the portfolio.
Absolutely. Is that something that's taken into consideration in the evaluation process, Milja?
Yeah, 100%. So we do look at your footprint, particularly in Global South contexts, because of course, entering into these kind of markets is challenging, and so if you already have experience and footprint in those contexts or are developed within those kind of contexts, it of course gives you kind of headway, if you will, in the implementation.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really critical piece, which is also why evidence generation is a thread throughout our implementation process, because as we all know, the evidence that you've generated in one context may not be relevant or applicable to the evidence in another. And so that's why we ensure that generating contextualized evidence, and that's why we're partnering with WICIT for actually the Learning Pioneers countries to generate that evidence for that specific implementation. From my perspective, and I hope Fanny with us would second this, is also an added benefit to being part of the Blue Unicorn portfolio, because it's also supporting with generating really applicable and relevant research findings in that specific context. I think back to the process, I was seeing a couple more questions coming up, and Olli, maybe this is just a quick one. Oh, I see you've already answered it via chat, but do you want to share vocally how many meetings are included in the follow-up?
Yeah. So minimum of one meeting. So during the full assessment stage, we expect to see a demo of the solution, and we usually have some questions at that stage for the provider. If you get listed, then there's an optional meeting, which is an onboarding call to onboard you on the learning cabinet. The demo session usually takes one hour.
Great. I see a brave hand up, so I would love from Mathletico. Would you like to ask your question?
Oh, hello, hi. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, nice. So what a beautiful presentation. So thank you so much for that. My name is Shivaji. I am UK-based co-founder of Mathletico, a maths app that focuses on functional numeracy skills. So I applied for the learning cabinet for Mathletico, and we're very lucky to have crossed the stage 1 of the application, and we have now been invited to apply for the second stage, which is the main, the elaborate program. What has happened is, we are currently in the middle of a big design transition, and that has taken us a bit of a time, right? So, we received the invitation in the around the 1st of January. We're in the first week of February now. Is it okay to get a bit of an extension, like 15 days, Olli? We connect on LinkedIn.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Shivaji. Yeah, of course. It's just let us know about your timeline, and we can be flexible.
Yes, because I'm conscious there'll be someone, some human being who will be, checking the product. So I want to put the best foot forward with the new design.
Of course. That's completely understandable, and we appreciate that. Yeah.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've also had a question come up a couple of times, which I think Olli may have addressed earlier, but on the scope of the type of tools that are included in the learning cabinet. And as we mentioned, right now they're focusing on learner-facing and teacher-facing tools. So the question of does it currently feature, and are we currently accepting applications for tools that are not sort of end-user learning tools, but more that platform space, LMS, for example? Olli, do you want to add any clarity on the potential pathway and what we're doing now?
Yeah, it's to be honest, it's a little bit tricky question, because sometimes with education and digital education, it's a little bit difficult to categorize and make like very strict categories of different types of products and say that this is okay and this is not okay. What we say at the moment is that pure admin tools, let's say that you have some kind of like ERP system, for example. So it's quite likely that it's not within our scope, and we wouldn't be able to assess that solution by using EdTech for Good framework. But what I would say as an advice is that you can just go and submit the quick assessment. It doesn't take that long time, and have us check the solution and then come back to you confirming whether this is within our scope or not. So that's one of the reasons why we have wanted to keep the threshold for a quick assessment and submitting that really low, so that we can also understand what is out there in the market. Maybe there is some tool that is not used by teachers or by students, but still we see that it's a valid, like a learning and teaching tool, and should be included.
Absolutely. And I would just add a complementary piece of work that we're doing with UNESCO. Actually, it's UNESCO and UNICEF, the Gateways to Public Digital Learning Initiative, where we really are looking at that platform piece and sort of the spaces, the digital spaces, and the guidelines and guidance even for developers around what those spaces should be, where the end user tools can plug into. So I would encourage the participants on this call to also take a look. We have a draft charter actually that's open for public consultation called the Charter for Public Digital Learning Platforms. I'll drop the link in the chat, but that's another way to engage with that piece as we're working on seeing how it can be incorporated into EdTech for Good. We have a great question, and I think we probably have time for just this one as our last one. So Olli, I'll ask you about the question that Nikki asked actually around the cadence of reviewing. Does it happen just once? Does it happen multiple times? Are they reviewed with a certain regularity to ensure that, you know, as the product changes and as the evidence maybe develops, that they have multiple chances at that evaluation?
Yeah, great question. At the moment, we do this annual check of these solutions. That is like a more like a standardized check what we do. But actually, we would want the solution providers to be very active, come to the learning cabinet more frequently, and update whenever there is a new language version of the solution. We'd like to have them update that information on the solution page. So we are currently working on building this kind of stronger engagement between the learning cabinet platform and the listed solution providers, so that they would continuously update their profile there. Having this guest blocking opportunity there on the cabinet is one of these approaches that we are using to build this kind of engagement.
Wonderful. Thanks. And with that, we only have 2 minutes left. So I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone that joined us today. Some really great questions, some future food for thought also for the development and further development of the Learning Cabinet. We really welcome your applications. Hope to see some of you apply. And with that, I'll pass back to Natalia to close us out.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Many thanks, Juliette, Olli, and Milja, and Fanny for sharing your perspectives. This was great. I think we got really good clarity on the process and how to ensure that we can get more solutions into the Learning Cabinet. Many thanks for attending, everyone. And if you would like to get more of sessions of this kind, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel or Substack channel or LinkedIn.